This is PTFC Driven, presented by Toyota. I'm Nat Borchers. We are interviewing Thorns and Timbers players to talk about adversity in their soccer careers. In this installment, we interview Portland Thorns defender Madison Pogarch. Madison talks to us about the difficulties of leaving her college at Central Michigan for a new challenge at Rutgers University. Here's our chat with Madison. I want to just jump right in here and ask you, is there a moment in your career that you want to talk about that was really stressful, difficult, that you struggled to get through?
Yeah, for sure. I think, I'm grateful for my journey, and I think I'm fortunate as where I haven't really had super difficult injuries or anything like that, knock on wood. But I think there have been mental gaps or mental times throughout my career that a little bit of doubt creeps in here and there. So I think the biggest one for me, a little bit of my background, I went to Central Michigan University, which is a smaller D1 school in Michigan for 3 seasons. And then I actually transferred out of there the spring of my junior year to attend Rutgers University, where I ended up graduating from. And I was very much a homebody when I was coming up and trying to navigate soccer and school and where I was going to go. And so Central Michigan was a great school for me. And then my time there, soccer has always been really important. And so as I developed and kind of grew in Central Michigan, I got to a point where I realized I think I wanted to take another step, and I wanted to play a little bit more competitive. And I remember that time of deciding whether to transfer, deciding whether to leave was difficult. And I usually bring this up most of the time when this question comes up, because I think sometimes, people look at transfers oh, it's okay. You just moved on. And we don't really recognize maybe the emotions that went into the decision, or the morning of, leaving a place. Or some people look at it in a way that they didn't enjoy where they were, and so they left and moved on. And that's not really the case for me. I tell people this all the time. I was I loved Central Michigan University. I had a great time there. I had a really great relationship with my coach. I had a great relationship with my teammates. I was kind of finding my niche and finding my people at school. And so I was really torn, because it got to a point for me where it felt like I was choosing this awesome organization and program that I had that fully supported me, and a somewhat selfish decision to leave and pursue my career and my own goals only. And so that was tough. And I had a lot of conversations with my family, a lot of conversations with my dad, and it was very back and forth. And because I think for me, being a loyal player has always been very important. And so I felt that with me leaving Central Michigan, where I had promised that I was going to play for 4 years, and taking that next step, felt like I was kind of going back on that character trait of mine. And so I struggled with that internally a lot. And then the kind of unknown of not really knowing where to go, not really knowing, for sure if I was good enough to play. Can I play in the ACC? Can I play at Duke? How high should I be looking? How high should I be shooting? Because the reality of the situation was I wanted to play pro soccer, and that was the end goal. But what's going to get me there? And you don't really know any of those answers until you go through it, until you get to the end. And now we're here. And so fortunately it really worked out for me, so I can play here and be here at Portland. And but I think the struggle that I had internally was I felt like I was leaving something that was so good to me, and really wasn't ever wrong for me to try and do something better. And trying to explain that to other people was very hard, because I was it's not you, it's nothing you've done wrong. It wasn't the coaching staff wasn't supportive of me. They were. I just felt like I had grown so much, and I needed to grow more to get to the next step. And so that was a difficult time for sure. But I'm happy to have gone through it and kind of figured that out and moved on, because I think that process of being comfortable with the uncomfortable has really helped me to get where I am now.
Certainly. And I can speak to that as well. I grew up in Colorado, and I, played, college ball there 4 years, played my first few years of pro there. And then I made a decision to go abroad to play in Norway professionally, and leaving all those relationships and those teammates, and having that goal, right, of progressing to another level. It's hard for people to understand. So let's go back to that moment, Madison, when you're making that decision. What you said that your ultimate goal is to play pro, and it seemed like Rutgers was maybe a better avenue than being in Central Michigan. So when you made that decision, who did you tell first, and how did you come to get to that place?
Yeah. So, I mean, the situation was actually, I think, unique, I think, for me, because I had thought about it over Christmas break, like in between the two semesters. And I was like, if this is something I want to do it the semester before the season. So I have a spring season to like integrate into a new team.
And this is your junior year going into your senior year?
My junior year going into my final year.
Wow. Yeah. So you've spent 3 years already here with Central Michigan. So you really have gotten yourself within the team. You're a leader on the team.
Yeah.
The coach knows you really, really well. And
At that point, I had like been a captain for like the spring season and then that fall season as well.
Sure.
And so I felt like I had like really come into, what the next few years was going to be like. And like, this is like the finishing of my career here.
Right.
And it was like, didn't feel right for me.
Yep.
So yeah, it was like unique. I had a lot of conversations with my family and like kind of decided that, it doesn't feel right now. Maybe it's not the right decision. And then it was a kind of, I don't want to say it was spontaneous because it wasn't like I just randomly decided to do it. I did like have a lot of thought about it. But the moment that I decided like I need to go through with this was, I think, out of the blue a little bit. Because we were already 2 weeks into school at Central Michigan University for my second semester. So I'd gone through 1 week of school. We had gone through 1 week of training in the second week. And I just got a feeling like the way things were going and kind of like how I was training, I was like, I just don't feel like this is the right place for me anymore. And so luckily, some schools had been a week behind in terms of when they started back up. So it was like a decision of, you got to go now if you're going to do it. So had a conversation with my coach on a Thursday. He was off the next Friday, so I couldn't talk to him next Friday. The weekend was off. And then I think on Monday I had another conversation because he's like, think on it over the weekend. And it was like Monday was starting the second week. And it was like, it's like a now or never type thing. So I had to go in and like, hey, I want to express how I'm feeling. I'm not sure this is the best place for me anymore. And I'm not trying to make it a personal thing. It's just like for my career, I want to take that next step. And so I got my release on a Monday, packed my apartment on Tuesday. And then by Wednesday I was like starting class, like in New Jersey. I was like in the car driving to New Jersey. So it was a bit of a different situation. Cause it seemed like, there was a lot of thought that went into it. And then it was like, all of a sudden, as soon as it happened really fast. Yep. So I talked to my dad and I talked to my parents about it a lot. I had like a really, really good mentor who had actually recruited me at Central Michigan to like help me kind of like through the decision, and is like, is this something you want to do? If it is, like, how do we go about it? And yeah, I mean, I just had like super supportive friends. I like a lot of my friends and like teammates. I think like it was hard at first to kind of understand, but I think they got to a point where it's like, no, we want this for you and we're happy for you. And so it was difficult. And like, at first I didn't really tell any of my teammates and like tell a lot of people because I wasn't for sure if I was going to go through with it. And so I didn't want to create that like animosity if I did end up staying, that like, oh, she doesn't really want to be here. Mm-hmm. And like, cause that wasn't really true. I did want to be there, but I also like thought I could possibly be somewhere else. And so I didn't really tell anybody. And then it all happened so fast that I just like had to basically like make calls and like meet up with someone. I like made a point to like meet up with everyone in my class and like people on the team and like explain so they could hear it from me. Like, this is what it was. And I don't want it to be like misconstrued in any way that you guys aren't good enough or you guys didn't do enough. I was like, this is just very much a decision for me and like my career. And I just want to like let you guys know so you hear it from like the word of my mouth. But yeah, it's a quick process.
And was everybody supportive of the decision, within your family and teammates and coaches after you had explained your side of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little pushback. I think the way I went about it and not discussing it ahead of time, I think really took some of my friends like by surprise. It was like, you didn't even say anything to me this whole time. And I remember like my best friend Mary, she's like, I just wish you would have told me, because like we could have had a conversation about it. Yeah. And so I think to a point like that might have been a little bit unfair And so that was like a bit, because I think there was no time to prepare for it at all. It was like we found out on Monday. On Tuesday, I packed my stuff, and Wednesday I was gone. So within 2 days, it was like all of a sudden Po's not here anymore. So like I understand that there was like a bit of a struggle there, but like as of now, I've like still maintained like really great friendships with a lot of my teammates there, and like still talk to them regularly, and they tune in to watch the games like even during this tournament. So it's pretty cool to come full circle and like recognize where we're at now.
And you obviously moved from a place in Central Michigan that was probably far different from the landscape in Rutgers, right, in New Jersey. Maybe completely different in terms of the types of people you're working with. The East Coast is a little bit different in terms of fast pace. Yeah. So how was that adjustment for you? Because you obviously it's difficult to make the decision first, but then to actually go through with it. How were those first few weeks? Was there a culture shock?
Yeah, I think I like to think that I'm like very go with the flow, very laid back, type person. And so I think once I made the decision, my mind was like on a one track, like we're gonna make it work. Like this is a decision that we made, and we're gonna make it a good decision. And it's like what I put into it is what I'm gonna get out of it. So I think the thing I was worried about is trying to integrate into a team that's been together, and this is my last year. So that was kind of my mentality, is like, this is my last year. I'm like, if I have a hard time getting along with some of the girls, like I have really not a ton to lose, because like I got 1 year to go. We're going to get in, we're going to like compete. We're going to play some soccer and win some, like titles, win some tournaments. And then we can like go on, it's not like, but I was very fortunate, and like the people that I met and the people I had on my team and at New Jersey were very welcoming to me, and like very helpful in trying to help me integrate. Cause I hadn't really ever been anywhere else. And like to now be the out of state kid and be so far from home, like 11-hour drive from home, was different, but I like really built really great relationships there. And, Central Michigan was in like farm town, we had like, there was nothing really around except the campus. And then go to New Jersey, where like the population is just like completely increased and there's people everywhere. And so like I've never been such a city person, and so that was like a big adjustment for me, is to try to like get used to so many people being around, because I went from like 20,000 people at a school to like 60,000 people at a school was a big adjustment, and the class sizes, and like I had to change my major as well when transferring. And so there was a lot, but I was like, we got to make it work. We're going to do what we got to do to make it work. And really fortunate to like have the relationships that I have and like build the relationships that I did there, for sure.
And you obviously you made it to the pros. So that senior year at Rutgers, how did everything go, just from the soccer standpoint?
I was very lucky. I was coming into a position where a senior had just graduated, so it was like they needed to be filled essentially. And so I came in at a really good time. Played every game. There was a lot of growth. Like the speed of play was different. The like being able to see the game differently was like very much of a challenge for me at first. But I think like once I got into it, it was like really good. And I think that really did springboard me to be more on people's radar. And I want to say like the Big Ten, the exposure that I got from playing in the Big Ten opposed to playing in the MAC, is what really helped me to like get where I am now, and to just be able to see how I can compete with high level players at like high level teams. So we ended up making it to the Big Ten Conference, lost in the quarterfinals. And then we got an at-large bid and played against Duke in the first round of NCAA, which was like tough. We were super pumped to be in, and it's like, you guys are playing Duke, and we're like, oh, that kind of sucks. But but even to be able to play in that game and like really see like how I can match up as a player with some of these top class players, and like some of those players that I played against went on to be first round picks in the draft this year and last year. So to be able to just kind of like really get perspective on where I'm at in terms of my own growth, and in terms of like where I started at Central Michigan, where I was at Rutgers, and like even now, to just kind of see like how that goes. And not that I'm always comparing myself to other people, but to just remind myself that we can play at this level, I think was really important in that move. And I think it's also helped me to get to this point as well.
And when you look back on that decision to transfer from Central Michigan to Rutgers, what was the most difficult part of that?
I think it was leaving the relationships that I had at Central. I'm like a very big relationship person, and I like to be part of people's lives and be there for them. And so I think I built like really great relationships, not only within my team, but within like other people in like the community at Central Michigan. And to leave that, um, leave like a whole place of people who supported me was tough, and like have to go into a place where I didn't really know anyone. Like the coaches were kind of betting on me in a way, and like I had to like, prove to the players and kind of earn respect and earn trust from the players now. That was probably the hardest part, because I didn't want anyone at Central to think that I was leaving them because they weren't good enough, or, that wasn't like, it was just, I want to just take a step, and like, I want you guys to be a part of that. It's just that I need to be somewhere else right now.
What
And I
would
think
you
that was probably pretty hard for me.
And what would you tell anybody in a similar situation now? There's people in their careers, whether it's soccer or accounting or any other industry, where they know they need to make a move, but they just don't want to make it because they have the relationships, right? It's comfortable. You mentioned that before.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
would you tell somebody like that to make them think differently? Because obviously you made that move. It was tough, but it worked out for you.
Yeah. Actually, my mentor, Jordan Nemser, like, who kind of helped me along with the process, he said to me, he's like, you have to bet on yourself every single time. Because, yes, you have great relationships with people, but no one's going to ever have your back like you do. Because at the end of the day, everyone is trying to be their own person. Everyone's trying to pursue their own dreams. And somebody's not going to put your dreams before their own. Um, and like that was kind of a big reminder for me. It was like, I do have to take this chance, and remind myself that that's such a big growth opportunity, to be able to go from something that's so comfortable and like be okay with going into a complete unknown, and like making it work and like figuring it out. Because I think I look back on that, and being able to, I moved from Michigan to Rutgers, and then go from Rutgers. And I actually left Rutgers early. I had graduated early there and left all my friends there to go play at Portland. And I think if I didn't make that move from Central to Rutgers, I wouldn't have been able to make the move from Rutgers to Portland,
Right.
in a way. And so, yeah, just be uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable is okay. And like, if those people are meant to be in your life, they're going to be in your life, and they're going to support you, and they're going to be there for you. And that was like the biggest lesson I think that I learned from that, because like I do have a lot of those people who still have my back to this day.
That's great. Madison Pogarch, really appreciate you sharing your story with us. And certainly, I think it resonates with a lot of people making those difficult decisions in life. So thank you so much. We're looking forward to seeing you out on the pitch again soon, and best of luck.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.